Contingency log number 63. Codename, The Mooch. I'd like you to take a moment and close your eyes, and within your mind I want you to envision what I am describing. Picture an alien, one who is barely the size of a child. He is unable to return to his home world, but fortunately for him, a human family has taken him in. However, the alien needs to remain hidden, for if the secret gets out, they run the risk of the government coming in and taking the alien away. I imagine many of you pictured the alien known as Alf, or perhaps E.T., the extraterrestrial. Wholesome and family-friendly aliens who have no ill will towards humanity. And I cannot blame you. But there is one detail I left out. Keeping everything else I've said before in mind, now add an addiction to alcohol and various illegal substances. If you pictured Roger the alien, then you'd be correct. When attempting an escape from Area 51, Roger would run into Stan Smith, a member of the CIA who originally intended to capture him. But an ill-timed grenade would result in Roger saving Stan from the explosion and obtaining a life debt. And as repayment, Stan would allow Roger to stay in his attic and do what he could to keep the CIA from finding him. Despite the effort put into keeping him a secret, Roger himself is usually the biggest obstacle to this, as his desire to interact with people makes it near impossible to keep him under wraps. But since he doesn't want to be placed on an experiment table, Roger developed a means to keep his identity a secret. This coming in the form of a near never-ending number of disguises, forging an army of personas of which he can live through. These personas are very different from one another, each having their own field of expertise and personalities. One of his most common personas being that of Uncle Roger, one which allows him to be seen around the home when others are around. For the most part, his family is able to identify him at a single glance, perhaps having known his true identity ahead of time, breaking any illusion his disguises might have. Though he has admitted that he has at least a single persona, each member of the Smith home is unable to see through. These personas are a bit of a concern, as due to the massive volume he has created, he's somehow ended up forgetting about several of them, typically getting into character immediately after getting within proximity of where one would be. One might think this is simply just him forgetting them, but I believe this is due to a much deeper mental disconnect. While it may be rare, there are times when Roger's personas seem to take on a mind of their own, becoming their own person independent of him, living lives that he cannot remember. One such example being that of Sidney Huffman, someone Roger spent several days ruining his life as revenge for what he believed to be a stolen identity, only to realize at the final moments that he was raging a war against himself. Sidney's personality breaking free from Roger, neither remembering the other's existence. And on the other end, we have Ricky Spanish, a persona that Roger rejected due to the number of immoral acts that he commits when entering this persona, which I find odd, as he's committed various heinous acts when not in a persona. In the end, my bottom line is that when facing Roger, there's no telling which persona may make itself known. His masterclass level of thespianism is only a part of what Roger has up his sleeves, however, as he has two abilities unique to his alien physiology. The first being a superhuman level of speed, one which he used to fake his own death. The bus he used being only a few feet from him, before he placed the body double in its path. I have attributed this speed to what has allowed Roger to live so many lives at one time. In some cases, his personas are the wives of important figures, leaving many questions that do not need to be answered. This other ability is rather strange, and I am unsure if he has any control over when he does this. Once, when suffering some stomach issues, unknown to himself, Roger would push out a diamond-encrusted golden turd, this single overlooked action causing a domino effect that one would not predict if asked. One would look at this object and first consider its monetary value, but it is far more sinister. It would seem that this object has a dark ability, one which is triggered when a human lay eyes upon it, This will cause the darkest desires of the human mind to become enhanced, causing even the more good-willed of individuals to become corrupted, willing to do whatever they can to obtain power, and will push a human into killing another if it means being able to keep it with them. And for anyone wondering, the one next to me is just a replica. Countering Roger is surprisingly easier than one would assume. Despite the number of bodies he's piled in his time, Roger has mostly accomplished this through sneak attacks or the use of firearms or other lethal weapons. Even with his speed, Roger lacks any physical might that could aid him in a battle. On more than one occasion, members of the Smith home have injured him in a fight. This includes the son, Stephen Smith, who has on several occasions shown to have almost no physical aptitude. That said, there have been the odd occasion where Roger has overpowered the family as well, so I cannot leave it to chance that I can simply knock him out on every single confrontation. Something else I can take advantage of would be Roger's weak constitution. One would think that being an alien, he would have a different level of resistance than a human's, but in reality, it is about the same, if not weaker than that. Even though he is a heavy user of illegal substances, he's shown to have not created a high tolerance for them. Even normal alcohol can eventually cause him to become incredibly intoxicated to the point of passing out. Roger is also not overly intelligent, something the excess substance abuse likely attributed to. As such, he is extremely gullible, and I believe that with a convincing enough bait, I can lure him into a trap if need be. That said, there is a chance that I do not need to target the alien. Rather, I could wait until he's taking up a persona to make my attack. Due to his desire to not break character, it'd be easier to confront him while he is under a persona who would give me the least resistance. And given Roger seems to have different personas working jobs all over town, I've got plenty to choose from. There is a small chance I'll run into some resistance in the form of Stan Smith. As stated, he originally allowed Roger to stay in his home due to a life debt, though that debt was eventually paid. However, Stan would admit that he does enjoy Roger's company, an odd friendship having been formed after the years they'd spent together. That said, Stan has made it clear that if given the choice, he will choose his family over Roger. It may not be fair, but if I need to ensure that he not get in my way, I may need to use that to my advantage. By now, I have plenty of proof that he is harboring Roger, and even he knows all the CIA would need is the smallest hint of it before they break down his door. With any luck, this will be over with quickly, and everyone can move on with their lives. If you also have a character you wish for me to cover, or just want to support this channel, I'll have a link to my Ko-fi page. There will also be a Google Doc with the list of characters who have ever been done or already commissioned by others.